3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening. This is the meeting of the Community and Economic Development Committee. It is Monday, June 27th, and it's 6:02 p.m. And tonight, we are going to provide a recommendation to council regarding ordinance number 031-2022, rezoning of 408 and 410 North Elm Street, parcels D08-250712 and D08-250710 from R6 two-family residential district to OR-1 office residential district. And who's going to give some information on this?
It's pretty basic. On May 11th, the Planning Commission considered the issue and recommended unanimously for the rezoning. In your packet, you have an aerial.
Yep.
The two parcels are related to one building in the parking lot, and the property owner is the business We Love Birthday Parties, who had purchased the property and is now asking to rezone it so that they can do an office type residential use on those properties.
Okay. Does the committee have any questions concerning this? This is not an emergency?
It's not.
Does any council members in the audience have any questions or comments concerning this? Do we have any staff that would like to comment? And do we have any general public? No, we don't have anybody in the audience tonight. Okay. What's our preference here? Want to move forward as recommended? Okay, we'd like to move forward on this one.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Number 2, provide a recommendation to council regarding moratorium of 60 days commencing July 15th, 2022 on the acceptance of new applications for certificates of appropriateness to allow demolitions, except immediate demolitions related to public safety concerns in the City of Troy Historic Preservation Overlay District. Consideration of emergency legislation is requested so that there is no break in the time period of the moratorium.
So the Planning Commission has begun to discuss the proposed, the recommended changes to the zoning code related to the Historic Preservation District. They will be discussing and possibly forwarding a recommendation at their next meeting, which is not until July 13th, thank you. And so the current moratorium expires 2 days later or 1 day later.
14th.
And so we're recommending or asking you to consider extending it by 60 days so that the council can act on any changes.
Okay. And again, so this is, the idea here is, of the moratorium is so that if in fact we would get a demolition permit or somebody wanted to demolish something, it would go under the possible new regulations that the Planning Commission is considering versus the old regulations that are in effect now.
The moratorium would prohibit staff from accepting any applications for certificates of appropriateness, so we would not forward them on to the Planning Commission until the moratorium expires, which would be either the 60 days or earlier if the council, depending on when the council would act.
Right. And so this is assuming now that we're going to go through 3 readings and also a public hearing.
Public hearing.
And then the 60 days will also include any council meetings that would be required along the way. Then would that be a fair estimation on the
I believe that's
60
correct.
days? Okay. Staff, you guys have any
Just
questions?
clarifying that it would be staff's intention then to forward that to the next council meeting on July 18th, assuming the Planning Commission votes on that at their meeting on the 13th.
Would be forwarded, but then there has to be a council public hearing.
Right, understanding the 3 meetings, but we would get it at our very
The
next
first
meeting.
reading would be on the 18th.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, and then it would go to have public reading and then also then committee and then back to council.
correct.
Public hearing would be the following meeting, with a committee assignment and then third reading after.
Right. Okay. Questions?
Not this time.
Okay. Any council people out in the audience have any questions or comments on this? Any staff have any additional comments or questions? And we are looking for emergency on this one?
Yes.
Yes, emergency legislation. What's our preferences to move forward on this?
Move forward with recommendation.
I think move forward is recommended on this one. Okay. Next.
That was moved forward with emergency?
Yes, move
Okay.
forward with emergency, that's right. Okay. Provide a recommendation to council regarding authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to execute a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the FOP, OLC, Troy Police Officers Association regarding lateral transfers and establishing a police recruit position, and amend the salary ordinance for that bargaining unit to establish the police recruit position, so that the memorandum of understanding can be executed without delay, and the wage established consideration of emergency legislation is requested.
So this MOU would provide two things, as you mentioned. First of all, we'd establish a police recruit position. So in certain circumstances, as we evaluate potential candidates and they appear to be good candidates for schooling, we could use the police recruit in a similar way that we use fire apprentice,
Okay.
EMTs. That's number one. Number two, again, similar to what we're doing with in the fire department, and is particularly relevant here with regards to the emergency clause, is we'd like to have you legislate the ability for us to laterally transfer an officer who has experience with another community in Ohio, so that they're not going back to the base step. We do that in the fire department as part of their MOU, and we'd like to establish the same practice here. We do have at least one candidate. We're down several. We have several vacancies in the department right now. We've been playing catch up for the past 6 months or so, getting close, but still have a few. We do have at least one candidate that would qualify for a lateral and appears to be a good candidate, and we want the ability to recruit that person as quickly as possible, which is why we're asking for the emergency language.
Okay. Of course, the program that's in the fire department has worked, my understanding has worked very well in providing people that fill the position of firefighter and paramedic and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's worked very well.
It's been very successful in providing on-the-job training and allowing someone, we've had several who have come in and been hired as apprentices and gone to EMT and now are even paramedics with us, so that's been successful.
Would this police training recruit be authorized to carry a firearm?
Not unless they are properly certified. Part of that certification will come through the training, so it'll depend on where they're at with their certification. As a recruit, they're coming in basically fresh into the academy. And so they would not be qualified at that point to carry a firearm.
Okay. And would this replace, I mean, I know there's some schools that they go to, I think the State Highway Patrol runs a school, and I'm sure there's some other areas, places where they get training. This would be in lieu of that type of training that they...
No, this would be while they're in training. If it's something that we want to use as an incentive, they're a particularly good candidate. They offer diversity. They offer some skills that we really want. That's the instance where we would hire them while they're going to school at a discounted rate for a period of time so that they can get their certification with a written agreement, again, similar to what we do with fire, where they would commit to staying on with us once they graduate.
Okay. Questions? Anybody have questions?
How many apprentice positions would we have open at one time?
So this would not be an apprentice. This would be basically one recruit as necessary. It's not an automatic position, so it's not that similar to fire. They're two different training programs. When you go into the police academy or one of the police programs, you're immersed in it for, what, a year?
18 to 21 weeks approximately. for
Okay.
police academy.
And that's all at once. With fire, you have breaks, kind of like you do with college. And so the apprentice will work for us when they're out of school, and then of course they'll be full-time at other periods of time. So it's a little different. The curriculum's a little different, the schedule's a little different.
Now that lateral movement, how's that working with contract negotiations? Did you guys already negotiate a clause in the contract for that?
No, that's why the MOU would be authorized by the council. The union is in agreement with this and would sign this. We've worked that out. It is, since we have the agreement in place, the union agreement, the contract for 3 years, that's when an MOU comes in because it's in between contracts.
Okay.
Are there grants or scholarships available for this type of program?
The State Academy is free. I think we've been exploring some grant opportunities, scholarship type with other programs. And, in some cases, the candidate has already chosen the school that they want to go to.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Questions from other council members in the audience? Mr. Whidden, please.
Jeffrey Whidden. Question either for Mr. Turlington or Chief McKinney. What are the basic duties of the recruit or the apprentice recruit? Would they be very similar to those of any young patrolman first starting out? Or would they, without academy training, be desk-bound in any way? Or what is I just kind of want to know what their basic duties are going to be without academy training. What are we going to be asking them to do?
Well, the primary duties are to be in school, to graduate school, and to get certified as quickly as possible. That's the primary duties. If there were any gaps in, let's say, weekends or long weekends or whatever, there may be an opportunity that they could do ride-alongs. They could do some non-certified type work in the department, if for no other reason than to familiarize themselves with the streets system, for example.
So they wouldn't be on patrol without at least another
They
police
would-
officer?
They absolutely would not.
That's all I have. Thank you much.
Any staff have any comments or questions? Mayor? Are we going to emergency request it on this?
We are.
So, okay, I think we want to move forward with this.
With emergency, yeah.
Yes.
I think we do this with emergency. Okay. The next one is to provide a recommendation to council regarding authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to execute a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the Troy City Schools regarding school resource officers. Consideration of emergency legislation is requested so that the MOU is in place for planning for the upcoming school year. Question, you have any comments on that?
Well, only that, this does say that it's an updated MOU. I'm not sure that we ever had a written MOU in the first place. If we did, it was a long time ago.
Okay. And my understanding is that we're going to get a little bit of extra money from the schools under the schedule that we've adopted on, that we should adopt on this.
Yes. So they've agreed to a stepped up increase over the next basically 3 years. And then after that point, we would peg them to the wage increases that were included in the cost of living. We dedicate 3 officers, approximately 9 months of the year, so 27 months worth of officers. We had a great relationship. It's very mutually beneficial I know that the schools would agree. to both the schools and the city, but it is long overdue. I meant to ask the chief, and the chief can clarify, but I believe that Kalia had asked us to put something in writing as part of our recertification.
Okay.
Correct. As our last accreditation, our accrediting body, the Commission for the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies, had stated that we need to have an MOU in place that explains the understanding between us and the schools.
Do we provide a school safety officer for Troy Christian schools?
We do not.
Okay. And when I say with like, the end of 3 years, we'll be getting a total of $30,000 per year from the school system for this?
It would be
24, yes.
Pardon?
In 2024,
Yes.
they would be paying us $30,000 total.
Okay. And and our police officers, by the time we count all the nickels and dimes it costs to employ them, they cost the city about $100,000 a year per officer, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, depending on which step they're in.
Which step they're in and that type of thing. Okay. So that, but this
But
is.
again, that's why I mentioned that, there is some mutual benefit to this. The SROs, they're the DARE officers. They do provide some DARE training to the parochial schools, especially on request. But, as school resource officers, they're in the school system. And, as good as our school systems are, there still are some mischievous behavior that goes on. And being in the schools is very helpful for us to investigate and determine
What's going on?
what's really going on.
Okay.
So it has been a very, very good relationship.
Okay. Money well spent, in other words. Okay.
If the SROs were not in the schools, patrol officers would be pulled off the street to respond to any call in the schools. So if they had an assault and the school felt that law enforcement needed to be involved in this assault complaint, they would call 911 just like you would from your home, and an officer would be dispatched. The school resource officers are able to develop relationships with the students and the staff in order to bring about these investigations. They do a better job since they're in the schools, and they can do it more efficiently. Additionally, we receive grant dollars from the state of Ohio that help supplement their.
Okay, so yeah, we get some help on this thing then by doing this from the state. Okay, great. Okay. Staff have any questions? Or not staff, I mean committee?
No, I think it's great to have them being a member of that school system.
No questions.
Anybody in the audience like to comment on this question? Okay. Emergency legislation is requested. What's our druthers on this? Move forward?
Move forward with emergency.
I think we can
Move forward.
move forward with emergency.
Okay,
Is there anything else we need to talk about tonight?
No, sir.
sir.
I think we are adjourned.